Hey you guys, Matt Allen here. Welcome back to Tactical Bassin. We get a lot of questions about traveling. What sort of gear do you need when you travel? How do you pack for a big trip? What rods do you take? What tackle do you take? Well, today I'm out in California visiting some friends and doing some fishing, and I've got all my travel gear with me. So we're gonna take a walk through and have a look at what it takes to get on the road and be prepared to do some fishing. So today we're actually going out to the California Delta, but we had an unexpected hiccup. We had to make a stop. So I'm sitting here in a grocery store parking lot. So you might have some cars going by, horns honking, people walking through. I don't know what's gonna happen. But I had a few minutes I didn't expect to have. So that's the perfect time to talk about this because I've been wanting to do it. Now, it doesn't matter if you're going all the way across the country like I am right now, or if you're just driving down the road to hop in your buddy's boat to go fishing. It's the same amount of packing. There is just a certain level of discomfort that comes with not being in your own boat or your own vehicle. So you need to know how to be prepared for that. Now, I'm gonna show you my gear for this trip. This is in depth. I went all in because I'm out in California and I'm hoping to catch some big fish. So I brought big gear, a lot of tackle. You can do a much more simplified version than what I'm going to show you, but I'll show you literally exactly what I brought on this trip. Let's start with rods and reels, then we'll talk baits. And again, if cars are driving by or something, sorry about that, but it's just part of the joys of being on the road. So rods, I've got 4 rods with me. Now I actually brought 5 rods on this trip, but today I'm going to the Delta and I didn't need the spinning combo. We're going to be all power fishing. So let's jump into these. Grab these rods here. Now first off, all of my rods are travel rods, meaning that they are multi-piece rods. They can be separated. They're all 3-piece rods, which means I can pack them down into I haven't actually measured it, but it's probably a 24 or 25 inch tube that I then carry on the plane. Now, if you're just going down the road to your buddy's place to go fishing for the day, you don't need travel rods, but what you want to do is have some very, ooh, that beeping is loud. You wanna have some rods that are very universal. So you can have 2, 3, 4, 5 rods with you. I travel with 5. That will meet virtually every circumstance that you might face. That's the ultimate goal, is to be able to adapt to the situation. So my first rod is a spinning rod. That's a Megabass rod. In the video description, I'll link you the exact rods, the baits, all that stuff. Now there's a lot of baits in the bag, but what I'll probably do is give you my top 5 or 10 pieces of terminal, top 5 or 10 baits that I have to have on the road with me, that sort of a thing. But my combos, I'll link that. First one will be that spinning combo for you. Again, it's not with me, it's back at the house. I don't need that today. Number 2, I'll butcher these names, but the Stim Palisades, Pilates. It's a Megabass, it's in the Triza series. I love these rods. This is not the first trip I've been on where we're using these. You guys have seen them before. I always travel with these. But this first one here is the most do everything of all the rods I bring. This rod can throw a Texas rig. It can throw a weightless Senko. That's what I have it doing today. It can throw a shaky head, but it can also power up. It can throw a jig. I took it down to Lake Falcon on the Texas border and I was throwing 10 and 12 inch worms on it. You can do a lot of different things. That is one of the most universal rods that I own. I could also throw a spinnerbait on it, lighter swim jigs, chatterbait. I mean, it's truly a you name it, it will do it rod. If I could only have one casting rod to go anywhere, that's the travel rod that I'm taking. Now, I actually paired that one up to that new Corrado 150. We had that in a gear review recently. The last couple of days, I have put it through the paces, had an absolute blast with it. That's that first combo. Again, we want rods that will do all sorts of things. Next up is another mega bass, and this is the third one. My spinning rod is too. This guy, what is the actual name of the model? This is the Dragoon. This guy, let me see if I can read you a rating. 7.2, half to 3 ounce, 12 to 30 pound. Again, you want those rods that will just do it all. Now this rod is interesting because it comes with 2 tip sections. So it's actually incredibly adaptable. You can do everything from throw a big bait on it to, here I'm throwing a big easy on it today on a beast hook. I can throw a lot of bigger baits with it, big top water. I caught some buzzbait fish on it. It could even throw a frog if it had to, but you can change that tip section out and all of a sudden you could throw big crankbaits on it, smaller glide baits on it. Again, the ability to adapt is everything. Now I've got that one paired up to a Metanium MGL. That is a high-end combo, but it will just, it's limitless. It could do virtually anything. The next one is a St. Croix. And this guy is a big rod. It's a 7.6 heavy, 3-piece rod, and it's built to travel around the globe. So double-footed guides all the way up. I mean, it is a mean rod. And I think this specific model is actually discontinued now, but I'll find something very similar for you guys down in the video description. But this is the rod that I'll throw big baits on. So I can throw a glide bait on here, I could throw a wake bait on here, I could throw big soft baits on this. I've thrown like a freestyle mag draft on it. Today I'm going to be punching with it, right? Big jigs. That is my true. Now I could do a lot of that with the Dragoon too, but I knew that I was coming out here fishing potentially Clear Lake, potentially Delta, true power fisheries. So I wanted 2 rods that were capable of really doing those big, heavy power techniques. And then my last one, this is actually a custom. And my friend Ryan built this one for me. And this one I had built when we went down to South America because I wanted a rod that could do a lot of different things. Primarily my day in and day out with this rod, it's a frog rod. Now I bring this one on these trips because I'm a frogging fanatic. It's the least adaptable of the rods that I bring, but I love frogging. I do it everywhere we go in the country. And I just want to know that I've got a proper rod with me at all times where I can hammer down on some big frogfish. Now I could also flip with it. I can punch with it. In South America, I was doing everything. I was throwing a Battalion on it. I was throwing crankbaits on it, but they had 4X hardware on it. So it is still completely adaptable, but I carry that one specifically when we travel as my frog rod, just completely dedicated to that. Again, paired up with that Metanium, and I just have a blast with it. Now, on to tackle. Now again, you can go as in-depth or as basic as you want. I go pretty in-depth when I'm traveling. So I carry, this is the exact bag that I carry. And this is also the exact bag that I carry my tackle in my jet boat, because my jet boat doesn't have storage in it. So I have 2 of these bags that go in and out of the jet boat with me. But this bag is perfect because it's waterproof. It'll shed water if we're out in the rain. I never know what I'm gonna face on the road. And then I pack it full of tackle. Now my rods all break down into that little tube. I carry that onto the plane, not even as my carry-on, but as a personal item. And then my reels, my cameras, my laptop, all that stuff, that goes in my carry-on. So anywhere I go in the world, I know that my cameras, my reels, and my rods have made it. No matter what, that gear is with me. My baits, those weigh too much. And sometimes when you get into bigger baits and big hooks, that gets a little funny with the airline. So that typically gets checked on the plane or shipped ahead if you're going somewhere really exotic and you need to do that. But this bag I check, the rest gets carried. So in here I've got today's sun gear. I've got my bag of soft plastics. And this bag, I won't even dump them all out for you, but essentially on this trip, Clear Lake and Delta, power fishing. So we're looking at creature baits, Senkos, flipping baits, straight tail worms for the shaky head, and some swim baits, some Kitex, some Gambler Big Easy, That's it. That's what's in there. And that will get me through anything I'm going to face in terms of soft plastics. And again, in the video description, I won't link you every one and every color, but I'll link you some of my must-haves. No matter where I'm going, I have to have that T-Mac worm. I just have to. I've got to have a trailer that I can flip with or use as a jig trailer. It's got to be able to do both, right? You've got to have Senkos. You've got to have a Kitech of some kind. They're just things you have to have. I've got 3 spools of line, 12 pound, 15 pound, 20 pound, all mono, because I'm using them as leader material. Again, that helps me be adaptable. So I can take a rod that can do a lot of different things, put 12 pound on it, throw a shaky head. An hour later, that's not our deal. I could immediately switch, put 20 pound on it, take that same rod. Now I'm able to throw a jig around heavy cover because the rod is able to adapt. I can quickly adapt my line as well. Now, I stole this box from my kayak, as you can see, but that's my terminal box. So everything from drop shot weights to punching weights, hooks for everywhere in between, some swim bait heads, some underspins, shaky heads. It's just a sampling of terminal, and I just carry that everywhere. So I quick grab and go with that box. I don't even pack that for my trips. I just steal it from my kayak bag. Then this guy was specific to this trip. What we've got here, because I didn't know what I would face. I didn't even know if we would fish for striper or for largemouth. So top waters, shower blows, a whopper plopper, California swim jigs, pitching jigs, a Gantarelle mixed with a couple other top waters, glide baits, mostly frogs, although there's a couple other things thrown in there with them, but frogs, because I knew I was going to do a lot of frogging out here. So chartreuse, white, black, bluegill, 4 colors. Heavy flipping jigs, light flipping jigs. Again, I'm on the Delta. I knew I'd need that. And then chatterbaits. And that's it in that box. And then my last box, deep crank, shallow crank. So a couple of square bills in common colors, 6XD, my Azumas, a couple of Rapalas, and it looks like I snuck a Scrounger and another shower blows in that box as well. But that's it. So essentially what I brought is a few soft plastics, some crankbaits, some top water, some jigs and reaction baits, and some terminal. And from there, I can adapt to anything. Now, the only thing that would change is if I knew for sure I wasn't going to a power fishery. I'd lose a couple of the really big rods. I'd add in another spinning rod. And I'd dump half those plastics out and I'd add in tubes, drop shot, smaller Senko so I could Nico rig. You can also turn around and use a Senko on a shaky head if you have to. Cut it in half and have a makeshift Ned rig. That's about all I would change. It's really not that tough when you travel once your gear is dialed. If it's something you do once in a while, it'll drive you crazy. But once you have a system, I know which rods I'm gonna grab. I know I've got a tube, and I bought my tube off Amazon. It's nothing special. You could crush it with your hands. Again, I'm not checking it, I'm carrying it on, so it doesn't have to be strong. And then just a handful of baits that will adapt to the situation. Couple of crankbaits will cover everything. Now I brought a whole box because I love cranking on Clear Lake. And as it turns out on this trip, I didn't really use them at all, but I was prepared if that was the pattern. But a couple of different sizes of line, a rod that can do a lot of different things, waterproof box to carry it all, and I am ready to roll. Now you can go that in depth, or you can go really simple. You can go across the country or across the globe, or just hop in your buddy's boat for the day. But once you know how to adapt your gear and to choose those rods that can do a lot of different things, not just one task, you'll be set going out and adapting to different circumstances. Not our typical video, shooting in the supermarket parking lot, but hopefully this worked out. Hopefully you guys could hear me all right. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll talk to you soon.